Welcome, everybody, to episode 11 of Voice of the NONnation. JPN, how's it going?
Oh, it's going. This has been a bloody week in the markets, huh?
Oh, man, has it ever? I tell you. Yeah, where are we sitting at? Let's go check out ultrasound money, huh? Let me see
Oh,
here.
we're down at 1750 last I saw.
Ooh,
1750.
ooh, let's see.
It's
Last night,
and ETH has held up well.
yeah,
All things said.
1756. Okay, so
Um,
yesterday during the start of the bleed, well, actually, it was the night before. Um, yeah, ETH was like 1790, so 1756. Seeing where Bitcoin's at, not too bad, not too bad.
yeah. No, we had a Friday night massacre, it would seem.
Yep, yep, we did indeed. I think we dropped from mid 27s all the way down to mid 25s, and then shot up
Hmm.
a little bit and on BTC and stabilized there. But yeah, quite an interesting week in the markets, and I guess maybe that's a good segue. We'll just dive right in. So yeah, this is definitely how they say, hey, first they ridicule you and then they or they make fun of you and then they fight you. Like,
Yep.
okay, like this feels like in the States, at least, we're both stateside. This feels like um, all out war by the SEC and Gary Gensler. It feels like, there used to be enforcement action after enforcement action, but this feels like every card has been shown, and he's definitely got skin in the game, and he's definitely coming after our space.
Oh yeah, this
Yeah,
was and this all started Monday morning, just to refresh everyone. Monday, Binance is sued by the SEC. Binance is sued, and CZ is separately sued
yep,
at the same time. Uh, we'll get into the details of that just a little bit. And then Tuesday, Coinbase gets sued. And in each one of those suits, certain tokens were listed
yep,
as securities by the SEC. Just arbitrarily,
yep,
from the best of my
yep,
understanding, just these are securities.
yep.
You're offering securities. You didn't register as a securities platform. That's part of the suit.
Right, right. Some pretty serious allegations in the CZ suit.
Yep.
Um, the Coinbase suit, I don't know if anybody should really be surprised. I mean, there was a Wells notice like 6 or 8 weeks ago, which
Yeah.
basically means that that communicates the intent to bring litigation against. So everybody kind of knew that was coming, but it kind of just got written off as a business as usual event, right? Some
Yeah.
posturing, but it's here, right? And so it's really interesting. Um, I've been reading hot takes on Twitter all week, on what the suits mean, what this means for the future of regulation of crypto in the United States, things like that. It's been really interesting. There's been some really interesting takes. A lot of people like, well, with the Coinbase suit, it was expected, but also at the same time, like Coinbase has some pretty good standing, and they think
Yeah.
that a lot of people think that courts will find cause and reason behind their argument because they have actively been trying to come into conformance and to get the SEC to stipulate some regulations, right, and things like that, or at least give guidance. Um, but the Binance suit seems like this could really this it seems pretty damaging, and there's some
Yeah.
pretty serious allegations in there, as far as segregation of user funds or lack of segregation of user funds, and basically cooking books and things like this. Um, so it's interesting to see, right? I mean, Binance.us, I don't see how there's any way in hell that stays around. In fact, they've already stopped USD deposits. They've
Yeah.
already cut off USD deposits. I'm pretty sure uh, all their banking partners have fled, and they've stopped, I believe, trading of a certain number of assets on Binance.us. I don't
They,
see how there's
yeah,
any way. I don't see how there's any way that Binance.us holds up. I do think, even in fact, that this could be extremely, extremely damaging for just Binance as a whole. Um, and with the US coming after uh, Binance in such a way, I think it would give other countries, pause to maybe allow Binance to operate within their jurisdiction. Um, like I saw, there was some enforcement action. This is, maybe not here or there. It was in Nigeria, but basically Nigeria said Binance Nigeria can't operate anymore or something like this. But I think that with, you know, the United States in the SEC finally playing their hand and drawing a line in the sand, I think it could give countries some real pause about whether or not they're going to allow finance to operate or other offshore entities in the crypto space. So it's kind of interesting. It's, I've been reading a lot of takes, but I think it's hard to disagree with that one.
yeah. I think some of the things brought up in the suit, especially against like CZ and Binance in that one,
Yeah.
they do look pretty damaging, and it sounds
Yep.
like the commingling of funds. I think there was one where they tracked funds that user funds were
Yep.
deposited, they were traded and offloaded
Yep.
to another company owned by CZ, or
Yep. Oh, I
partially
saw
owned by
that.
CZ.
Right.
And then
Right.
those were used to buy a boat, which is sort of
Yep.
like the stereotypical funnel user funds into a
Right.
boat. And
Yep.
if all that holds up, yeah, it's some of that could be very damaging to Binance, to CZ, and
Yep.
to especially the US operations for Binance. I think Binance probably survives it. I
Yeah.
don't know if Binance US survives it.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that Binance may actually the only way that they're going to survive it is maybe regime change and CZ goes away, which is interesting. Um,
I think I even saw
yeah.
a rumor Monday morning that CZ was stepping down. I don't think that was confirmed, but it's
Gotcha.
showing that some of the turmoil might be, if you oust CZ, maybe you throw him under the bus.
Right.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that
Yeah.
plays out. The
Right.
Coinbase one, it sounds like the SEC has no real legs to stand on here. Coinbase has been
Yeah.
like, tell us what the securities are. We won't. We'll delist them.
Right.
Give us really good enforceable action. Regulate us. Let us talk with you. Let us come into
Right.
compliance. And the
Right.
SEC just sues them. And I
Yep.
think there's legal battles that Coinbase is fighting, sort of alongside this. There's something that has a 7-day tick down. I saw them tweeting about it. But Coinbase is
Yeah.
basically asking the SEC, like, give us some proof that, like, how we can proceed, how
Yep.
where these other definitions are. But this really feels like the SEC is labeling things securities and just hoping that that sticks,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
though, yeah, I don't think it can.
Right. There was some heartening tweets by some US senators. Can you hear me okay, by the way? My
Yeah,
recording, okay. I think yours is picking up a little bit better than mine. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay on the audio. But there were some tweets um, by some US House members and I think a US Senator on the Republican side kind of chastising Gary Gensler for his actions about, basically, trying to kill crypto in the USA and especially making positioning statements like, we don't need digital currency. We have, digital dollar and things like that. And he said, like, this
nope,
that is not your role. Like,
no,
you should not be weighing in on this whatsoever. You know what I mean? And that's 100% correct. And I mean, I heard a couple of takes of like, wow, it was, my gosh, if the Biden administration wasn't so, wrapped up in other things or something like this, or whatever the administration is, this feels like, this is coming down from the top. And it's interesting, like somebody pointed out that, like, you know FTX 2.0 is trying to get off the ground again right now, and as we know, that was kind of a
Q3 or
Trojan horse.
Q4 this year. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a Trojan horse to try and centralize all crypto in the U.S. through FTX and to kind of kill off any competitors. And they think that like this is just trying to salvage that operation and have that really happen this time without FTX blowing up or excuse me SBF blowing up the plans and everything like that. So
Yeah.
um, it feels it's hard, it's really hard as a US citizen to kind of like absorb everything that we've been like that's been thrown at us, US crypto users over the last week. We got kind of like that co-sponsored bill that was put out, I think, 2 days before Monday, before the lawsuits dropped, and
Yeah.
and there were some really kind of well thought out proposals for regulation in there and things like that. I thought, and that was generating some good buzz, and like people like, okay, like hey, like this could actually go somewhere, and this could be a positive step for U.S. crypto regulation and things like this. And then here comes the SEC and just I mean, they try to do like a 1-2 knockout punch, right, on
Yeah.
the whole industry, right?
And
You
and
know,
for
they
me,
don't
the
want people to be in compliance. They want to kill the industry, and
yeah,
they
and
want to pave
that's
the way for a CBDC, and that's
yeah.
exactly what
It does feel
the
like that
centralized forces here are trying to do.
because there's like a right way or a way that you know would be much preferable for how this goes because there are scams in the space.
Right.
There is need for regulatory clarity to actually have regulations, have
Yep.
people in compliance, common sense ones that help protect people from outright scams and from people just launching meme coin, dump it, and then
Yeah.
stuff like that where laws could be used to potentially protect people and protect investors. But
Right.
instead we're going after Coinbase, who is a big player in the space, who is you know a centralized authority, who does a lot of due diligence, who is trying to do things by the book the best that they can. And to go after
Yep.
them when there's scams running around all the place and there's no common sense rules is just it's
Yeah.
exactly what you said. It's rather than trying to regulate the industry, it feels like an attempt to destroy the industry, wipe out
Yeah.
anything that's existing, so that when you do go ahead and roll out a CBDC, there's no challengers.
There's no partner. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, they're trying to kill on ramps and off ramps. They're trying
Yep.
to scare away banking partners. They are, trying to let it be known that, hey, if you do participate, in business with these companies, things like that. So, yeah, it's like, it's so interesting. It's June 11th, 2023, 2 years ago. When we were, gearing up into the bull market, it felt like crypto was an inevitability in the US, and you know what I mean, and like things I mean, of course crypto was the buzz at that time, right? But it just felt like and all of these services were coming online and banks, things like this, and then here it is, like just two short years later, right? And it's like they're trying to just nuke it. It's just
Getting
crazy.
crushed.
And it's sad because the technological wonder that cryptocurrency is, it's going to continue to flourish. It's going to continue to innovate and grow in countries outside the US, in the outside the USA, and the US is just going to get left behind.
Oh yeah.
And it's not a well thought out long term strategy, for crypto. So, or for the U.S. Excuse me. So it's kind of disheartening as a U.S. citizen and resident. It's kind of disheartening to see. I gotta say, this week has
Yeah.
been really tough.
Did you take note what one of the coins, I guess really two of the coins that weren't labeled as securities in either one of these lawsuits?
No,
Uh ETH was not labeled as security in either
mm,
one of these,
yep,
even though some of the other big players, I think Polygon,
Yeah.
Solana, and
Yep.
Cardano, all three of those were labeled in at least one of them.
Yep.
Ethereum was not.
Yeah.
It appeared in
Yeah.
neither.
Ethereum is
Non
too big for them to
also
go after.
Non also
Yep.
wasn't a security in either one of them. So
Yep.
I don't know what to say. Yeah.
Non by its decentralized nature, I sent you that tweet thread yesterday, right? And thinking
Yeah.
about, someone was saying, this is going to really cause protocol designers and teams to really think about the design of their protocol and the levels of decentralization. So if there's any kind of silver lining, right? I mean, this is a hugely marketable angle for us and for NONnation to be
Yeah.
able to to market this level of decentralization and basically protect yourself from regulatory right concerns,
Yep.
things like that, about centralization concerns. So I think that and that's definitely an angle that we will be pushing hard on. But that's just a silver lining. This week has still been really tough.
It's been tough. Robinhood delisted those three that I
Yep.
mentioned.
Yep.
And those three were sort of some of the leaders in this Friday night massacre that happened. So
Yeah. Right.
there's evidently players in the spaces looking at these lawsuits saying, "Hey, these ones that are securities here, we got to dump them.
Yeah.
Can't hold on to them. They've become a liability."
Right.
And
There was
so
some
that is
institutional
going to
clients
push.
that had done that too.
Yeah.
There was some. I saw there was some equity holding companies that just dumped their entire investments and like were tweeting about it and hashtagging it and stuff like that. And like, basically this experiment, that we've done for the past 2 years of having digital assets on our books is over with. And it's just such a shame.
This is real bear market vibes here. I gotta admit.
Yeah, yeah. This is. I know. We didn't know, in the last bear market whether crypto was going to survive. It might collapse under its own weight, and now of course, crypto will survive, and you can't put an idea back in the box, right,
No.
in Pandora's box. And so it's not the kill shot that the SEC certainly likely thinks that it is. Definitely not. And all it's doing is giving some sense of short-term security that, oh, hey, we're protecting the dollar, and paving the way for CBDC in the short term, and that's it really. So, but I did see I did see Polygon's founder, like I don't know, they dumped like $6 million worth of Polygon, right
Yeah,
before or Matic right before was it right before the enforcement action? I think it was last Sunday night or before they were named in the enforcement action.
maybe.
And that's kind of disappointing to see. You know what I mean? I can't stand seeing that kind of stuff, man. Such a
Yeah, no,
conflict of
it's
interest, man.
the way regulating with enforcement here is slimy, especially when people get tipped off about it and
Right?
can play that. It's it's just playing into the worst aspects of the space here. And it's like if you
Yep.
have common sense regulations and you make them well known to everyone and you evaluate everyone on these regulations, on these scales, it would make the space so much better. And
Right.
it's or at least it would legitimize the space instead. But their goal is not
Yep.
to legitimize; it's to nuke.
Yep.
That's where we're at. Uh, but
So
enough
I
on
just
that for now.
realized, my apologies. I just realized that the microphone is on my laptop and not through my AirPods. So just give me a second here. That is frustrating. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll have to leave and come right back. Be right back.
Well, now you're all stuck with me. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Next couple of years
Can
are
you
going
hear
to
me
be
now?
very. Yes, I can. And yeah, the next
Sorry
couple of
about that.
years they're going to be interesting. We'll see how it brings. especially how the industry in the U.S. reacts to it. Crypto is going to survive. How does the
Yeah.
U.S. crypto industry survive?
Yep.
But
Yep.
we'll move on here. Did you see that earlier this week the Arbitrum sequencer ran out of gas?
I did see that. That was kind of interesting. Hopefully, everybody can hear me better. Yeah, that was interesting. That was not on my bingo list of things to happen last week during crypto.
Mm-mm.
Just the optics of that, right? Look, especially, I think, we talked about it at some point, I think, during an
Yeah.
AMA last week, but during Bedrock's launch week, and then Arbitrum runs out of gas. That just doesn't seem like great optics to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Optimism had just completed the Bedrock upgrade like 24 hours earlier, and then
Yep.
Arbitrum Sequencer runs out of gas on mainnet. I
Yeah.
actually dug into it a little bit, so it sounds really bad on the surface. Like, who let the sequencer run out of gas? And what happens when
Right.
because the way L2s work is they have a contract on mainnet that is publishing the transactions that happen on their L2. They call it the sequencer. They publish the transactions to mainnet using that contract, and so it needs Ethereum to pay for gas costs to publish those results from the L2. If that contract doesn't have gas, it means everything happening on the layer 2 network stops because
Yep.
those transactions can no longer be finalized to mainnet, which is not a great thing.
To say the least.
Yeah, it is
So what
it
was
is a
what
single
was
point
the
of failure.
fallout from this, and how long did it take to get back up? I thought it was like
It
three
was
or
an
four
hour.
hours.
It was
Oh, an
just an
hour?
hour.
Okay, gotcha.
It was not very long, and I actually dove into a little bit. So it sounds really bad. It sounds like somebody dropped the ball. Like this was a horrible, terrible thing. It actually happened by design, I found out. So
Wow.
there are two contracts that run this. There is a sequencer, and the sequencer always has a little bit of gas. It has enough to keep pushing transactions to mainnet. It never
Mm-hmm.
has a lot. It constantly gets topped up by a second contract that does have a lot of ETH. It has a lot of funds in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that contract is meant to, as the sequencer is publishing results to mainnet, it is topping the sequencer back off as it goes.
So that's the design. Okay.
Yeah, it was by design, and it actually worked out correctly because what happened was there was a bug in the sequencer. Something happened. I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but basically something caused it to not be able to push the results correctly to mainnet. It wasn't able to
Hmm.
publish the results to mainnet properly. There was some bug, some hiccup, something happened. And so it tried and failed to publish these results to mainnet several times, and it actually ate up the gas that it had. This
Oh,
other
okay.
contract was looking and saying, "Hey, it's not publishing good results to mainnet. I'm not going to top it off.
Right. Right.
It's failing. Something's wrong."
Yeah.
And so the sequencer burned through the just a couple of ETH that it had, rather than kept trying and failing and burning more and more of the ETH that was in this top up contract. So this was
Yeah.
actually by design. It worked properly, and ultimately prevented funds from just being burned in failed
Being over and
transactions.
over and
Yeah.
over. Interesting. Interesting. Hmm.
So yeah. So while it points out like a failure or a soft point for L2s, single points of failure in the system that the entire chain relies on, this was
Yeah.
a design thing that worked out well for him. It worked
Yeah.
as intended.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, well, it's and they understand the bug that occurred, and they're going to.
Oh, I think they fixed it, within the hour there. Something they
Mm,
were able to clear it out. I'm not quite sure how that got resolved, but they identified
yeah,
and were able to patch it out. So it's working fine again. But
nice.
this was sort of an interesting design mechanism that, if you were initially designing an L2, you might think, "Oh, I'll just give my sequencer all the gas it needs so it'll never run out."
Right.
But these
It
systems
could
are
just
designed.
right. It could just burn through,
Yeah.
through and through and through.
Mhm.
Yep. Hmm. Interesting.
So it was ultimately good
Speaking of
design.
L2s,
Yeah.
speaking of L2s, we were passing that article back and forth from Vitalik, and he made a couple of points.
Mm-hmm.
And what was his point on L2s? Do you remember?
Yeah, L2's for everyone who didn't see Vitalik's article, it's great. Go check it out. But he basically says
Yeah.
Ethereum needs three things moving forward. Everyone needs to move to L2s. We need smart contract wallets, and a third one that I'm completely blanking on in the moment. But with L2s, he
Oh
basically
man, what was it? I can't remember.
he acknowledged that for L2s, a lot of what happens on Ethereum is going to happen on L2s, and that
Right,
Ethereum will ultimately become just the finalization layer. It's going to be where
right.
L2s post results as
Yep.
opposed to the main chain where the actual
Settlement layer.
transactions happen.
Right. Yep.
And there might be some, I mean, especially if legacy infrastructure, exists, if Uniswap V2 is still kicking, 10 years down the
Yep.
line, you might see
Yep.
very large transactions go through there. There might still be, liquidity there, but a lot
Right.
of the day-to-day stuff and the more interesting protocols are going to happen on L2s because yeah, a swap on Uniswap, if that's going to cost, $15-20 on mainnet or more during high gas prices, and you can do the
Right.
same transactions for 10 cents on Optimism, it makes a lot more sense to do the transactions over there.
Yeah.
Swaps on
Yep.
Optimism post Bedrocks, 10 cents. I paid less than 10 cents to do swaps over there this week. It
That's
is,
awesome.
ooh,
That's
it's real nice.
phenomenal.
It's real nice.
Yep. Speaking of Uniswap, I heard that Uniswap V4 is right about to drop. Did you hear that?
I heard rumors about it.
Yeah.
I think Uniswap also posted, "Is everyone ready for the weekend?" And instead of writing FOR, wrote the
Yeah.
number four.
Yep. Yep.
So
Interesting. So we'll
I
have to
I think
see. We'll have to see what happens there.
I think V4 is I think Uniswap V4 is imminent. They've
Yeah.
already pushed their wallet, and I'm sure there's going to be tight integration with the Uniswap wallet, with the Uniswap
Right.
protocol, with V4. I'm excited to see what they push.
It's interesting because Uniswap is a U.S. based company.
Uniswap Labs, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. You know, we'll see where this regulation, uh, enforcement attempt goes, and it'll be interesting to see if they, try to come after Uniswap Labs or something like that. Hopefully not, but could definitely see an angle there where they would feel some pressure to, and how the protocol operates, things like that. So
Yeah, because
be
right
interesting
now
to
the
see.
developers, I think Uni does all their stuff with Snapshot. They're just
Yeah.
Snapshot, essentially polls.
Right.
And there was one
Right.
recently on whether or not to turn on the fee switch, which
Yep.
would take fees from the user swaps and give some of those to people holding the Uni token. Um,
Yep.
it failed. There's more reasons. We should actually talk about that at some point. It was actually a really interesting governance
Yeah. Maybe
failure.
next week.
Yeah,
Yep.
more people voted yes than no, but no won because there were three yes options. So it's interesting. We should check it out. We'll deep dive into
That is
that.
very interesting. Yep. So it's we have a new article coming up, and just to kind of preview a little bit, there's talk of the landscape of crypto pre and post non, and I love the way that it's presented. But it'll be interesting. I think that there is going, with the decentralization tech that we provide and that we can provide to projects to kind of allay these centralization concerns, things like that. Um, it's this is kind of a question that protocols and teams are going to have to start grappling with, like very
Yeah,
quickly here.
yeah,
Some hard lines in the sand are being drawn right now, and some real tough
yeah,
decisions are going to have to be made. With regards to centralization and team control and things like that.
yeah, because with Uniswap, yeah, they have the ability to flick that switch. It's not uni holders that have the ability to flick
Right.
the switch. They can, vote on proposals, but they don't have the power to execute the code to do so, which
Right.
means it is still in team control, which means if someone were to try to attack the protocol and, activate the fee switch by some forceful method, well,
Yep.
you don't have to go through and try to figure out how to exploit the governance tokens or see if there's an exploit in how they vote and stuff. You go to the founders with a $5 wrench and uh,
Yep.
you wrench attack them. And so
Yep.
it's going to be very important for protocols and protocol founders to look towards trying to make sure they're protected, that they don't have the special powers in an ecosystem to do things, because if you have the power, it will be exploited, whether it is
Yep.
by bad actors, whether it's by governments, whether it's by courts. Someone will try to find that weak point and get into an otherwise,
Yeah.
pretty hardy, pretty well protected protocol through that one weak point. And right now, when you have multi-sig governance, we've talked about this some, when you have single points of failure in it through
Right.
founders, through developer teams, where they have the power to do things, that's where you can find issues. That is going to be the
Yep.
point that gets attacked. So
Right.
there
And
there
that's
is.
also where you can find issues from, I'm not saying right or wrong. I personally think wrong, but from the SEC's perspective on the Howey test, where, a group of, people are speculating on an increase on price based on a centralized, entity's actions,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that that is an overly broad definition. And I do think that obviously it needs to be reworked in the era of digital assets and things like that. And that's the battle that Coinbase is fighting right now. But with that being said, why not just decentralize everything, right? Why
Yeah.
not just put it into the hands, right, of holders, right, of your community members, and get away from these centralization concerns? And there goes the stress, and you can focus on building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, this the decentralization tech that we provide is quite literally going to be a game changer in my opinion. And I really like the way that Toshi describes it with the pre and the post landscape after non. So,
Yeah, this is the way forward. This is the way. This is the path towards decentralization, towards
yep,
turning towards turning that power and control from centralized entities, whether it's teams or single developers, even towards token holders, towards communities, towards
yep,
even governance councils of some sort. OP does a little bit of stuff with that, but
right,
turning that over to reduce the points of failure and to alleviate devs from being that point of failure is
yep,
a huge boon to the space. This is something that we will see, and the tech that we have lets it happen in a secure way that's very granular in its
yep.
approach.
Extremely
Because
granular.
yeah,
Yep,
we've seen time and time again, if you turn over the whole thing, if you just say you can execute arbitrary code through a 51% vote, it's going to get exploited somehow.
yep, yep,
But if you have these, sub down managers where it's like, okay, you can change the inflation, but we set a couple of predetermined values, choose one, and
right,
the way that it's changed is through a factory contract that gets published and says it will only be one of these. The code to actually make the change was written long ago. It's secure. You're going to be able to do that. You can do it as many times as you want. Here it is.
yep,
That's huge. That
yeah,
is
yep,
that changes it from, okay, I can execute arbitrary code, do whatever I want, to, oh, I can make a selection on what I want this value in the protocol to be. It gives the switches and the control in a way where your protocol is protected from bad actors, but is also
yep,
decentralized.
right,
It's remarkable, and this is how things should be done. This is how things will be done in 10 years down the line. It's
right,
how quickly can we get people on board to make this, to start doing this transition? Because it is
Right.
the way forward. This is the way that you decentralize protocols. It's not,
Yep.
turn everything over all at once. It is, here we're going to set it up so that, yeah, things are turned over to holders, but in such a way where they can't break it.
Yeah. It's kind of important, just a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. Well, interesting conversation. And like I mentioned, we have a great article coming out this week, and I'm sure there'll be lots of interesting conversation after the article drops as well. So should be some lively AMAs and yeah, events. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. And if you have a question or a comment from during the episode, make sure to go drop it down in the comment section below here. Drop it
Yep.
in a Twitter thread and
Yep.
ask it. We'll get to it on our AMA/hangout
Yep.
on Tuesday.
Yep. Yep. And I hate to be like typical YouTuber, but click like and subscribe so you can stay plugged in to all the voice of the non-nation and everything non-viral. So we appreciate it. So yep. Well, some exciting events coming on this week, JPN. So this podcast will be dropping, and then, like you mentioned, Tuesday we'll have the non-viral AMA. Wednesday we'll have the team event, and then Thursday we'll have the team AMA, which is pretty cool. I think the last one went really well. So fun opportunity to hang out and get some questions answered and have some lively discussion. So,
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing everyone there. Drop your
yep,
questions. We'll get to it. And the recording, the AMA will be recorded. So if you're unable to attend the AMA, drop your
yep,
question below. We'll answer it. Come check the recording
yep,
later
yep,
and hear what we had to say.
yeah. And hopefully I don't screw it up this time. It'll just be a one-parter, no missing second part. No, thanks for bearing with our week one growing pains. So, cool. All right. Well, we're gonna leave it there. Any final parting thoughts, JPN, for this episode?
The only thing I got is gas prices on mainnet. We have dipped below the ultrasound barrier, and we're
Saw
not seeing
that.
the sharp spikes we were during meme season. We are.
I saw that.
It's cheaper to do things. So if you've been waiting to move funds around on chain,
Yep.
to mint an NFT, buy an NFT, any of those things, gas prices are down. You have a window of opportunity here to get
Yep.
in now that the memes, now that the 100+ gas days
The
are
Guai.
behind
Yeah.
us for now.
Yeah, I think I saw 15 Guai the other day.
Yep.
So yeah, excellent reminder for everybody. Definitely take advantage of these low gas prices. And my parting thought, I'm just really tuned in to what's going on, and kind of like, with the legal stuff that's going on and the SEC and things like that. And so, I think we're going to have a lot to cover over the next couple of weeks watching this unfold. I think one court gave the SEC 7 days to respond on something.
This is part of the
Ruled,
Coinbase thing, yeah.
yeah, ruled in Coinbase's favor and gave the SEC 7 days to respond on why they're regulating by enforcement action or something like
Yep.
that. So, maybe we'll do it. Maybe we'll do a special episode and kind of cover all the bases with that. But, the one thing that's for sure is that NONnation provides decentralization tech that is protection from centralization concerns and regulatory concerns. So that is a theme that we're going to continue, a theme and a topic that we're going to continue to discuss and explore on the show and on our weekly events, because non-nation decentralization tech is coming to change the game, and it definitely will. And
Yep.
this is, you could not ask for more prescient timing. I mean, this is just hitting all at the perfect time. So um, excited to explore that further. So. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. Thank you, everyone, for joining episode 11, and we will see you next time. Take care.